This is meant to be an interactive new moon call, and I'll talk a bit. I thought I'd read some poetry this time about the dark. It just felt like an appropriate thing to do this time. But as I was saying, the winter solstice time is really a time to go into the dark. And we don't have to go into the dark right now in our culture, in our society around the world, because there's a lot of darkness happening in terms of the social, political, economic, and the environmental issues that are happening. There's a lot of heaviness and darkness. And I know many of you have written and talked to me about feeling this weight of the darkness and the fear of what might be coming, and a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear out there. And I think many of you have said that to me, and I want to go, rather than avoiding the dark, to go really into the dark today and to allow ourselves to immerse in it. I'm reminded of a school teacher that one time for her elementary school kids, she gave them 3 plants, and she gave them, and the instruction simply was put one in the light and one in the dark, and keep one in the light all the time, one in the dark all the time, and then just one in the window. And so, of course, they did that, and didn't take long for the ones in the dark to die. And the ones in the light that were in the light all the time lived for a little while, but they died too. But the plant that was in the window that got the night and the day thrived and flourished in that environment. And I think we resist going into that dark and not recognizing that we need to go into the dark. It's our rhythm is going into the dark. And so I'm really wanting to dedicate this today. And I want to open up kind of as a community and a ceremony. And I love it when you turn your lights on. Yeah, I love it when you turn your light on, but also when you turn your screen on, so we can just be a community and feel that we're not alone, that we're here together entering into the darkness. So this is not a solo journey. And one of the primary heart of suffering in life is this sense that we're separate. Somehow we're separate from our bodies, from our life, and from each other, and from nature. And so one of the things that this call is really about is a call to connection, to interconnection, to find a stasis, a place of co-regulation where we can enter the dark together, where there's a sense of safety and like, okay, I'm going into the dark now, but I have friends with me who are going to go there with me. And so I want to honor the dark, and I'm going to do that by lighting this little tree of life candle here, just to open the ceremony officially. If I quit blowing out the flame. And also, just to start with, I want to do a little invocation. Maybe I'll rattle for this one. And basically, I'm going to talk a little bit, read a little bit, answer some questions. We're going to take a journey, a guided meditation, and then we'll work with some people who want to see, okay, how can I be with this and recognize my own resilience, my own ability to be there, but also how can I find my soul's gifts by going into the dark. So let's just start by closing our eyes. Maybe I'm going to rattle a little bit just to kind of get a rhythm going. And let's just feel into our breath and honor the collective as well as each individual that's here, that together we're going to be on a journey for the next hour and a half. And I want to call in the hidden forces from the darkness to honor the spirits of, well, first of all, the 4 directions, honoring the spirit of the East. We call in the spirit of the East, the home of the first light, that light that's emerging out of the darkness. And that light is also in most shamanic and mystic cultures, that first light, that eastern direction, is the direction of the wind, the direction of the breath. So let's just all take a deep breath together and feel that sense that the breath connects us all. We're breathing in the trees, we're sending out and feeding the trees with our out breath. So we welcome all the spirits of the East, and we open and honor and welcome the spirits of the South, the spirits of the sun, the spirits of warmth and love and compassion, of connection and playfulness. And we ask the spirits of the South to help us to not take ourselves too seriously and actually keep our heart open to the mystery, to the warmth, to the love, to our personal self-compassion as well as compassion for others. And we welcome the spirits of the South. And we honor and open and welcome to the spirits of the West, the home of the setting sun, the going into the darkness. As we move into the darkness and the spirit of water, which is the spirit of the emotions, we allow ourselves to actually have our emotions, to not push them away or suppress them, but allow ourselves to fully feel ourselves and go into the body and get that felt sense of being connected to a body, connected to our soul, connected to each other, connected to the web of life. So we honor the spirits of the West and the setting sun and the move into the darkness. And we welcome also the spirit of the North. The spirit of the North is the home of the ancestors. It is the place to honor the earth that we're made of, the clay that dances in us, that we're part of. And we really welcome the helping spirits to be with us, to guide us, and to help us into this journey into the dark. So we welcome, obviously, the new moon, the dark side of the moon, and the sky in all time as we enter into this conversation together, a conversation to find healing, to find connection, and to find our way in the dark times that we're in right now, and to bring light and bring wholeness to ourselves and to all those that we touch. We hope that we pray that this work that we do today will make an impact on all sentient beings and all of life. And so it is. So yeah, welcome. It's great to be with you. And I think I'll start out with a poem. Let me call it up here a second. I have a number of favorite poems, but one of the poems that I wanted to share first of all with you is a poem by my friend David Whyte. He's a wonderful poet. Most of you probably have heard of him, and he has a poem called Sweet Darkness. And he says, when your eyes are tired, the world is tired also. When your eyes are tired, the world is tired also. When your vision has gone, no part of the world can find you. Time to go into the dark, time to go into the dark where the night has eyes to recognize its own. There you can be sure you are not beyond love. There you can be sure you are not beyond love. The dark will be your home tonight. The night will give you a horizon further than you can see. You must learn one thing. You must learn one thing. The world was made to be free in. The world was made to be free in. Give up all other worlds except the one to which you belong. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn. Anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. Anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. So what does that poem bring up for you? And again, this is interactive. So you can raise your hand or you can write something in the chat and Deborah will read it to me. but I think it's the relationship of the darkness and our aliveness, that ability to go into the still place, the quiet place, and discover what's truly important, what's truly essential to us, is a, a really important thing to do right now, because we're in this frantic busyness. It's amazing. We're physically separated. I don't think we're socially separated. We can be socially distanced and be very connected because we're connected right here. And if you feel into that and actually look at the people that are in the screen here, you can begin, if you go through the screens, you can begin to see that, oh, there's other people. And we have this thought that there's other people out there. But are they really out there? If we're coming from a mechanistic perspective of out there, then we're separate from them. But where are they actually showing up? Everyone here right now is showing up in my nervous system, and I'm showing up in your nervous system. So we're much more connected than we believe, but we have the chat room that's kind of always going. The story of I that keeps us in this kind of treadmill of going in circles and habitual behavior, and doing things that we wonder why we do often. Why do I have that habit? Or we're so overcome with our personal fear and anxiety and disturbances that we have a hard time connecting even with our body or our emotions. So I want this to be a dialogue. So when David Whyte says, sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn that anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. Does anybody want to comment on what they think that means to them, or any question about that, or just feel free to raise your hand and or write in the chat box. There's no raise hand here, but let's just write in the chat box a little bit. Take a moment to just do that. So, okay. Can't hear. Can you send a phone number? Oh dear. I don't think you can do that. Can you, Deborah? I'd have to do.
Yeah, sorry. I've been looking for a phone number, but I don't see one for this.
Because I only sent the link. I'm afraid, can you just, I don't know how she wrote that, but can you tell her that she'll have to listen to the recording, because it would take me a while to be able to uncover that. So I'm sorry about that. I hope everyone else can hear all right. So, okay, let's just look at some of these. Yeah, I feel it's more of a call to find your focus, and focus is well, not unwell. Not sure what you mean, Crystal. You want to come on and have a conversation? Crystal?
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Hi. Thank you. Yeah, so what I take that as, if there's something that you're focusing any part of your energy on, whether it be your thoughts or your actions on something that just doesn't enliven you, then, send your focus, where it is. Like, drop those things. Those things aren't serving you. They're not providing a function for your growth and benefit.
Yeah.
So that's what I took that to mean.
No, it's beautiful. I love that. Let's talk
unwell.
about that. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, because I think it's really good. What is it that takes our focus away? I think one of the questions to really ask ourselves is, what keeps us from focusing on what's essential? What keeps us looking at our phones all the time? What keeps us busily working away while Rome is burning? rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic kind of thing. What is that? And I would say that that has a lot to do with our fragmentation, the dissociated parts in shamanism they call soul loss. The traumatic parts is a lot of talk today about cultural trauma, how we, which is pretty evident when you think about the fact that we have normalized taking babies away from mothers. We've normalized making money more important than life. We've normalized bombing huge sections of innocent people around the world. I'm not saying that's not an accusation to anybody, but we've somehow gotten numb, so we lose our focus on what's really essential. And so that's a question that when we do a journey later and go into the dark, we really want to look at, well, what is really essential, and perhaps see some of the barriers that keep me from focusing. I think it's the perfect word that you're saying, Crystal, is, we lose focus. We are preoccupied with our own identity. And many of you who've studied with me and been around know that, we have this story that we live into. We think that we see reality, that what we perceive, that's reality. But actually, reality is our perception. It's the worldview that we see the world through, and we see it through a story. And the story comes from our ancestors, from our familial offerings, from our culture, and so we're seeing through that. So it keeps us separate, and it's made up of many fragmented parts. And a lot of those fragmented parts are available when we slow down and when we go into the dark and we allow ourselves to feel fully. So much of the work that we do here at the Well of Light is to learn how to feel our feelings again, to learn how to actually embody ourselves, to recognize. All of the work that I've done for the last 40 years has to do with embodying. So, James Joyce wrote a wonderful quote. He said, Mr. Duffy lived a short distance from his body. And, most of us live a short distance from our body. We're not embodied. And so, but that's our instrument to tune into. And so when we go into doing meditation and journeys and in the way of the mystic, we have basically three areas we work with the meditation, with contemplation, and with prayer. But it all takes focus. So I love that you bring that out as a first area to look at. Well, what am I focused now, and how am I listening? Because my assertion is that most of us don't really listen. In fact, maybe we never did. That when we're with someone, we're often preparing our rebuttal, or we're looking to see, do I agree with that, or do I disagree? Which of course is looking at the remembered past, which is informing me and my story. And then there's like, oh yeah, Crystal, she reminds me of my sister. I remember the time that we went to the lake and, oh, what were you saying? So focus. Yeah, Crystal, absolutely. It's like a practice. And to venture into the unknown and into the darkness, we have to be willing to recognize that we live inside of a story, a set of assumptions and ideas that keep us from going into dark places where there's really a richness. It's like when you think of the earth, humus, there's a humility. It's humus is what allows things to grow. To go inward into the dark, into that place, is an opportunity to have a more fecund, more more growth in our life. So focus, great way to start. Thank you, Crystal. Anyone else want to jump in and say something? Joanne says there's so much trauma on all layers, from personal to global scale. To heal all of the fragments seems overwhelming and never ending. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Joanne, you want to come on? Are you here? Joanne? So I just want to, it's such a rich thing, these layers, and it can seem overwhelming. But what makes it seem overwhelming? What is it that, it makes stress, it makes anxiety, it makes us feel constricted? And that's exactly this thing about I'm stressed. How many people feel really stressed lately? Just raise your hand if you feel a lot of stress, anxiety. You think about, the election and Black Lives Matter and what's happening in other places all around the world. Yeah. So, but stress, when I say I'm stressed, what am I really saying? When I say to you, I'm sick, I look up because I have you all on one screen and I have me down here. So if it looks like I'm watching birds outside, it's actually I'm looking at you. But what is it? When I say I'm sick, is that a cold or is it stage 4 cancer? We don't know. When I say I'm stressed, what does that actually mean? It means that my current perception and capacity to be with what's arising in the world is insufficient to meet it. In other words, I am overwhelmed and I don't have the capacity. So when we look at that and we look at the issues that are happening now, it's a function of capacity. Now, how then can I expand my capacity? Well, meditation, contemplation, and prayer help in the way of the mystic. But to still ourselves and allow ourselves to be in our body and to focus inward allows us, literally, if you take a breath right now with me, take a deep breath and let that go. And now take another one, just feel into your body. And one more. Can you feel that kind of expansion that happens in your body just by attending to the breath? Dropping down from the chat room into the body and breathing increases our capacity to hold what's occurring. And the more we can still ourselves, and the more that we're willing to explore the unexplored, the more capacity we have, which is why going into the dark is such a powerful thing to do. I want to read another poem here that just came up for me. It's a Rilke poem, maybe my favorite poem of all time. He says, "You darkness of who I am born, you darkness of who I am born. I love you more than the flame that limits the world to the circle it illumines. I love you more than the flame that limits the world to the circle it illumines and excludes all the rest. But the darkness embraces everything, shapes and shadows, creatures and me, people, nations, just as they are, just as they are. It lets me imagine a great presence sitting beside me. I believe in the night." So, when I think about that poem, the fact that mostly we're looking, let's say we look out at the stars, right? What do we see? We see stars. But do we actually see the background of the stars, the blackness, the emptiness, the space? There would be no stars without space. I think of the Star Trek Space, the final frontier. Well, when we're looking at dark, we're looking at moving into the vastness of space from which everything emerges, from which everything comes basically. Thoughts and stories are forms. Where do they come from? Where do these fragmented parts of ourselves actually live? These frozen things from the past. You know, we think of time as a linear perspective, that there's a past, and then I'm here, and then I'm in the future. I'm a baby, you know, I'm an adolescent, I'm an adult, I die, I'm born, I die. But that's only one kind of time. You know, the Greeks had a wonderful notion of chronos, which was chronological time, that kind of time. And then kairos is the kind of time that's emergent time. I'm going to talk about emergent futures a little bit if we get a chance today. Emergent time is like a time, a time whose ripe. It's an idea whose time has come. It's the fruit is ripe for picking. It's a time when we can lean into something that's bigger than what's here. It's an event that's ready to happen. So as we come into this time where all the systems are dissolving and the institutions are falling apart, there's this place in the trough of time that is a liminal space, which is filled with possibility before we come out. So you could say we're in a rite of passage right now. We're going through time and a rite of passage. And we're in the place of any journey, which is, you meet the challenge, all looks lost, and then we emerge. So if we've been doing this for millions of years. Life is evolving. Life wants to live. Look around you. Everything wants to live. Life wants to live. It's the nature of life to live. And so if we get a larger perspective and recognize that all that our ancestors gave to us, and they went through climate change, war, burning at the stake, hysteria, all these different things that they went through. And that's handed down. It's in our nature. Resiliency is in our nature. The ability to evolve is in our nature. But we get locked in these stories and get closed into them. So the possibility here is to move from what I call form consciousness into space consciousness, which we're going to take a little trip at some point into the void, into the darkness. So space consciousness is without form. Thoughts are forms. Chairs and tables are forms. Computers, all these things are forms, and we focus on form. But when we go into a meditative place, a place of stillness, we recognize that there's such a greater capacity that we're simply particles in a field of waves from a physics perspective. We've named ourselves. I am this. Who is the I that we're naming? I am this. I am a teacher. I am a writer. I am a mother, whatever. But when we name things like that, we confine ourselves to the story. And to get back to the time is always going to be right now. And the thing that we talk about as the past is simply frozen parts of ourselves that we're carrying in the present. My teacher, Thomas, calls it carry-on luggage. I love that. We have a lot of carry-on luggage. It's in our body. It's literally in our body. So we've got the remembered past, and then we've got now, and then we've got the imagined future, which is we have no idea what the future is, but we stress and fret over it, but it's the imagined future. It's not even really the future. So how can we bring ourselves back into this moment, this current time, this place that has all potential? And for that, I think we go into the dark. But I want to have a few more. Anybody want to chat about this or have any questions about what I'm saying before I do a little journey here for us? I'd love to hear your voice. So if anybody wants to say anything, please just unmute yourself.
Hello, I'm Ayana. Can you hear me?
Ah, yes. Hi, Ayana. You didn't need the phone.
I am so excited. I could not hear, and now I can hear, and I am so excited. That's all I have to say.
That's great.
I
it's a biblical miracle. I was deaf and now I hear. Thank you, love. I appreciate
thank you
that.
so much. I so appreciate being here. Thank you.
Great, great. So Marky, for me, the capacity grows in proportion to my humility. I love that, humus, to the acceptance that I cannot control events, can only be with great loving compassion with myself and all beings. To come into the present, we need to be with whatever's here. Not always easy. Brilliant. I love that. And yes, not always easy. It takes a kind of surrender and a willingness to recognize that there's always invisible forces in our life and in the world that are shaping things. Thank you. Thank you, Marky.
I just need to make sure that Jazz gets credited for the initial quote, because Jazz wrote it, and and I was complimenting and affirming that initial quote, but I did talk about, you know, needing to be with what's here, which really isn't always easy, which is, I think, one of the beauties of coming together, because when we gather, when we have connection, we can support each other, and it makes it so much easier to be with what's hard to be with.
Yeah, that's just so true. Connection, you know, really is the healing, the antidote to all the things that are going on. How can we be more connected? You know, when I was talking about when we really can be with the people in these little frames here that are on our computer, and really get a sense of, oh, there's another human being out there. They may not have the same ideas and thoughts, but they have feelings, they have needs. We all have that. And I love that you brought that up. And that's one of the things to me about the dark, is that it connects us. Because you got lights like in the sky, you've got the all the stars, but then you've got what connects us is the background, is the blackness. And a good visual artist is always, a good visual artist is paying attention to, you know, what's the space that occurs in? You know, what's the space that I'm occurring in? How much freedom do I have within the space that I'm in? In other words, my story, my history, my family, my ancestors. But how can I go beyond the boundaries of that? Let's see. I'm not doing a very good job on tracking questions here. Georgia, Deborah, did you? Oh, okay. Firth, is that your name?
Earlier on, Tessa had her hand raised, but I'm not sure if she still would like to speak. But if you do, Tessa.
Okay, are you there, Sasha? Or Tessa? Was it Tessa?
Yes.
Oh, Tessa. Okay, and then we'll come back. Is your name Firth or Ulrike?
Yes, I wonder. Sometimes I feel when I go into the dark, and I'm very, very creative, and I go into the retreat, and I don't meet my friends, and not even my spouse and my family are not part of the dark.
Yeah. Yeah. Your story isn't part of the dark either.
Yeah, so I don't want to isolate, you know. I mean, I feel well in the dark, and I seek these moments, and I love them, and I'm you know, I'm exploding
Yeah.
with ideas, and I do paint, and I make jewelry, and um, but I always feel I'm too much for the people I meet in reality.
Hmm. That you're too much for the people you meet.
Yeah.
Like, in what way do you feel too much? Where's the too muchness live with that?
I don't know. Maybe I still depend on being understood.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So there's a sense of a disconnect in being understood with people.
Well, I love the dark, but
Mhm.
I the people that are close to me in reality, I don't meet them there.
You don't meet them there? Is that what
Yes,
you said?
Need.
yes.
Don't meet them or need them? Meet.
I don't meet them there.
Right, right. That's what I thought you said. Right.
I don't need them,
Mhm.
but that's something, well, I feel as disconnect.
Wow.
Mm.
And they do too, especially.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Wow, I could feel that way too sometimes.
Michael? Oh,
Yeah, hold on. Let's just not crosstalk because then it'll get a little crazy. So I'll keep going with each of you. So I invite you in this journey that I'll do in a while, which I'll create on the spot, so I don't actually know what's going to come through on it. But I invite you to bring your friends into the darkness with you and have that dissolving happen that I'm going to talk about in there, and see what happens in there, Ulrike, because it's like the dark connects everything. The light is singular, like the poem, when what's he say? Uh, the flame that limits the world to the circle it illumines, but the dark embraces everything. And I think, yeah, let's play with that there. Okay.
Well, I would have to invite my close people to step into the dark.
Yeah, yeah, with you, and we'll have a guide and of some kind, and we'll take them all with us, and
Yeah.
we can all dissolve into the dark together. Okay, we'll try that and let's see what happens in that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I love your sessions. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
thank you.
Yes, you're
Thank,
so soft and so loving. It's so soothing from my heart.
mm, thank you
Thank
for
you so
being
much.
someone who receives so beautifully. That's gorgeous.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And Tessa, I'm sorry to keep you waiting there. I didn't see you having your hand up, but let's chat. What's happening?
and then after Tessa, Polly has had her hand raised for a while.
Okay. Thank you, Deborah. Hi, Tessa.
Hello, hello. The points were early on, so it may be a little past the time to share them, but when you were mentioning about what might be keeping us from being comfortable with going into the dark, the first thing I thought of was the roles that we play and how important those roles are, whether it's mother or spouse or caretaker, and we get so caught up in what's necessary to perform them well, or what those individuals need from us as we play those roles, that we may get so caught up that we lose sight of our core, or don't give ourselves time to go into our own dark.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, that kind of refers to the whole idea of story, because roles are part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And the story does confine us. We have that story. And the story, much of the story was formed in times of fear or anxiety, or, you know, early on when something big happened. It doesn't have to be, it could be really big, like rape or molesting, or it could be a car accident, or it could be a dog barking. And it isn't the incidents that happen to us, it's the story that we make up about the incident that creates our story. Like, you know, dad wasn't there because he had to go to work, so I'm unlovable. You know, that means I'm unworthy of love. You know, we make those kinds of stories up, and that is the fabric of our identity, and our roles are born out of that fabric even. And so the thing to recognize is that our identity, our narrative, our story, who I am, has only one purpose, and that's its own identity, its own survival. It has no other purpose but its own survival. So in order to expand and grow, we have to learn how to step out of that and be able to see it and look at it and love it. And when we embrace those parts that we haven't been embracing, they then integrate, they soften us, they become part of us, and we're no longer carrying them like baggage or like regret or remorse or blame or all those things that we get stuck in, including towards ourselves. So yeah, I love that you brought that up, because it's just a deeper look at this idea of an I. But what we're creating here, and it becomes palpable in some of the groups that we have, there's a we space, there's a space of recognizing ourselves. Oh yeah, I recognize myself in Ulrika and in Tessa and what she says, and in Deborah and in Marky. You know, I recognize myself. And sometimes I call it you, but you wouldn't recognize the things in other people if you didn't have them, including the dark side, what we would call the shadow, the unexperienced parts of ourselves. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Another point that, you know, perhaps we're so caught up in the us versus, or the us and them over there, that we forget that it's really all about we, and that there's just one race in my mind, which is the human race. So we can get caught up in that as well. Thank you.
Well, that's an enormous thing that you're talking about. This whole idea of separation. When you look at separation, the idea, this model that we've been living into that actually lives us, it's in our language and built into our economic system, our education system, all of these different places. It's like built in. So, you know, it's really like, what is dividing us? What is it that's causing these kind of divisions? And we want to just lean into that and ask the question, you know, what keeps me separate from the far right, the far left, the middle, whatever, you know, from all the different others. So we go around othering. And you know, there was a wonderful article that I think was Mitt Romney wrote in the US about how we've lost not only connection, but civility, and things, you know, are escalating, and that's a whole nother, we could do a whole thing on that area. But I think that the thing that you're pointing to, this separation and this othering, is really something that when we go into the dark, you know, I'd really look at, well, who am I separating myself from? How am I holding myself separate? Because that is at the heart of suffering. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then who is next, Deborah?
Well, Polly, although she commented that she isn't necessarily feeling inclined to speak at this point.
Okay. Did she have a question that she wrote somewhere or anything?
No, there was just a hand raised.
Okay. Okay.
And Jazz has an interesting, I think, question comment. Michael, have you ever heard of internal family systems therapy? What you are saying is exactly the focus of that flavor of psychotherapy.
Yes, I'm very familiar with internal family systems. Yes. Um, and I won't go into it a lot, but family systems was an area of psychology where it took into part all the people in the family. Internal family systems is looking at all the different ways we separate ourselves into other parts. So those are the fragmented parts I'm talking about. And in that, it's like meeting those and greeting those people. We actually call them like parts of ourself, the parts of ourself. I won't get too far into that because I do want to do a journey with everyone and then continue the dialogue. But yes, thank you for bringing that up. I love the internal family systems, IFS. Yeah. So one more thing I want to talk about before I do a journey is what Otto Scharmer and some other people call the emergent future. And when I was talking about time, this is the kairos moment, the emergent future. And the emergent future, all of this lives on the what the Greeks called eon. And that is, if you imagine that eon is the holder of the ocean is the chronological time, and the waves are kairos, that they all work together. This is not either or. Something I talk about often is the Chinese temples have these gargoyle lion kinds of figures. You've probably seen them in pictures. When I first went to China back in the 80s, just when it opened up, I asked my friend that I was traveling with, what are those? He'd been there 32 years, 17 in prison. I said, what are those lions? And he said, oh, those are the guardians of the truth. I said, the guardians of the truth? What are the guardians of the truth? He said, paradox and confusion are the guardians of the truth. So, when you're confused, which is sometimes a way of not having to confront something, but often it's a liminal space where something can emerge. And paradox is the ability to hold both and rather than separate into separate parts. So yeah, let's see, what else did I want to say about that? So the emergent future is when we get still enough to be able to hear what is whispering in the present. What's the future that's calling you? And I'm talking about you as the soul that came here for something. You were born at this particular time with these particular circumstances in the world. So you belong here because you were born here and you're here. So there's no question about belonging in that sense. So when we go into the stillness and we evaporate ourselves and whatever else goes with us, and we get still in that place, then look and see if with your whole body to listen to see what is it that's calling me that has to do more with my essential goodness, my essence, my original goodness, what I was born with and into, and what is it that's calling me? So I think we should do a little journey meditation, whatever you want to call it. How does that sound? And we'll look and see what, I want to liken this actually before I started. Kind of going into the dark for me is like into the void is like a death process. It's like allowing ourselves to die to all of the things that have been holding us back. In the prayer of St. Francis, I love that he says, it's in dying that we're born to eternal life. And in all the mystical traditions, particularly the indigenous and ancient traditions, there were always gods and goddesses of death to inform us and to keep us informed, to keep us in our essence. And if you look at, some of the gods and goddesses I was thinking about this morning when I was thinking about doing this, as potential teachers or guides or protectors to take us into the void. So some of them you might be familiar with. Of course, Anubis is the guardian of the dead, the Egyptian, and Mania is a goddess of the dead, and Persephone, of course, is the queen of the underworld. Dia Taxita is also goddess of the dead, and Yama and Emma and Morrigan and Kate, and they're all like guides. And so when we do this journey, you can use one of the ones I mentioned, but you can also just call in a not a family member, but a guide, a spirit guide of some kind, a goddess or a god, or maybe even an ancient elder or master to accompany you into the void. So you have kind of a person that's a guide into that. And then I'll take you into the void and invite you to just dissolve into the void and see what comes up for you in terms of connecting with your essence. Okay, is that all right for everybody? Should we do that? Okay, so let's take some time. I'm going to use the rattle just to kind of create a tone here for us to breathe, to get centered, to have a straight spine, feeling our feet on the floor. See if you can breathe right into your heart. Feel right into the center of your heart. Let the breath go right in there and expand the chest and the heart area. And just get yourself in a centered place. And just before we take the journey, begin to set an intention. So I'm going into the void. I'm literally going to allow myself, my current self, to dissolve and to die into the void of life, the place of all creation. So I'm going to set an intention. What is it that I want to discover? What is the emergent future that I'm leaning into that will inform my journey? And maybe take just a couple of rests to notice what is worth the kind of surrender to jump into the void. And then calling in a spirit guide. And I invite you to imagine yourself next to a black hole. You're standing on the edge of a black hole. Your spirit guide is there. You're a little nervous. So your spirit guide just pushes you into the dark, into the black hole. And feel yourself falling into the darkness. Imagine yourself just tumbling over and over as you fall into the depth of the blackness. Notice any feelings that you're having, moving into this black texture. And pretty soon you find yourself just beginning to float. And this blackness is kind of like an acid. It just begins to dissolve your body, your bones. All that's left is the breathing. You're just breathing into the blackness. And notice that it isn't you breathing into the blackness, it's the blackness The void is breathing you. Feel the infinite blackness that's breathing you. And just feel into the texture of nothingness, of pure emptiness. Letting go of thinking or trying to understand. Just releasing yourself into the darkness. The unmanifested, home of pure potential and possibility, the home of creation. And you had an intention. I invite you to speak that to the void. Make contact. Recognize yourself as the void. And just lean into that soft, still voice. What is it that you came here to learn? What is it that's calling you? What is the future that's emergent in you, in life? And I'm just going to rattle for a few minutes as you make contact with and communicate with yourself as the void. Feeling into the infinite vastness of the void, which you are. Listening, breathing, opening, allowing whatever images or thoughts to arise from the void. What is the emergent future that's calling you? Calling you into the present. Be sure and express your gratitude to the void, knowing that you can always come back to this place. And your spirit guide is going to come back in and gather your parts together and bring you up out of the infinite blackness, back into where you're sitting, into the room you're in. Take a few more deep breaths and feel your feet on the floor. Feel your weight. And just notice what you retrieved from the void. Welcome back. You might want to take some notes. So, this is a good time to share the journey. If anyone would like to share what they discovered in the journey. Yeah, Ulrike, please.
It was so strange. I had difficulties to leave the light.
Uh-huh.
And once I really merged into the dark, and I hit bottom, whatever, I met myself. And we just hit each other and hugged each other and felt it very deeply. And then maybe it was my higher self, whatever. And then we separated and created this space, this dark space. And people were falling down into this space. And we went around the world, and we're back. Sorry. And came back to back. And the whole world was dark and emerging, and all people were kind of emerging. And it was so, my heart is still expanding.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
And we came back to back. And that is, I had difficulties with trusting and trusting myself was coming back.
It's beautiful.
Thank you so much, Michael.
No, thank you. That's beautiful. So beautiful. I love the image of back to back instead of looking at yourself, looking out to the world. It's so powerful. It's beautiful. Thank you.
It's still growing.
That's great. Yeah, let it grow.
Yeah. And I have back problems, and, sitting up straight, is not my normal posture. So, it's really strengthening me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Let's have some more. Let's get some more people to share here, because we've got just half an hour. But thank you. That's such a beautiful journey. Thank you for sharing that, Ulrike. It's lovely. Yes. Who else? Isolde, did you have your hand up? No. Who?
How do you get your hand up?
You can put it up by going to your name and clicking it, or you can just wave and we'll call on you.
Okay. I don't have a video on mine.
Okay. All right.
This is Daniel.
So yeah, you're communicating. So hi, Daniel.
Okay. Hi. Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. This was just as this other lady said, it was really coming home, and I just felt that this is a place that I haven't allowed myself very much, and I'm just one of those beings that this is a place that's necessary in my life daily, to be able to connect and feel that this is me, this is a part of me. And I could feel that the potential, it was just so exquisite to feel the potential. It's such an alchemic kind of feeling that just the possibilities, I could feel it in my fingers, in my toes. And as this other woman talked about the expansion, again, there's almost no words to express that feeling that, that I'm so small, I feel so limited at times.
Just a second, let me Hold on. Trying to find where we're unmuted here. I'm going to mute all and Deborah come back, okay?
Okay.
Dania, I mean, excuse me. Come on back, Dania. Can you come
Yeah, you
back?
can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Anything else that you wanted to say? It's beautiful.
To me, this was just a divine appointment because I heard about you at the very last minute.
Oh, good.
And the feeling to come on was so strong. And I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm grateful for you being on too. Thanks so much. Deborah, anyone else have the, oh, okay, let's get somebody who hasn't spoken here again. Someone? Yeah. Deborah, any questions or comments on the
Well,
chat?
Polly has a comment. Raven is my spirit guide. The darkness told me to let conflict with others go, to be peace, light, and love. Let it go. Raven was waiting to take me back before you drew us back.
That's beautiful. That's actually my retrieving animal. That's wonderful. I love that synchronicity. Thanks. Great. Anyone else? Ayanna, did you want to say something? Now that you have a voice? You have to unmute.
Deborah has her hand raised next.
Okay, Deborah. Yes. Where are you? There you are.
Okay, now I can speak when you're ready. Okay.
Okay, well, let me talk to Deborah and then I'll come over. Deborah, are you unmuted? I can't hear you. Let me see here. Where are you? Deborah Wayne, there you go. Okay. Now, can you unmute? Yeah, I think you got it. Did you get it? Down on the lower left on your, where it says mute, can you click on that? I've lost you here. Okay.
Deborah, can you click on your mute button so that it says unmute?
It's on the left. Lower left.
Yeah, it looks like you're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Is your sound in, or do you have something plugged in like earphones? Try it now. I heard a click. I think we're going to have you write it in the chat. Okay? Write it in the chat and then Deborah will read it. Ayanna, please.
Yeah, just that I feel more whole being connected to the void.
Oh.
And you know, and I'm curious to see what will emerge out of the pieces.
Yeah.
You know, what new will come together, you know, and I'm willing to be open to see.
Yeah.
What
And the
comes
nice thing is go back to this place anytime and you know, and also take it to your dreamland too, because that is when we go into the dark there and see what emerges from that. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, expectation. What will come next? Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Did we get a question yet from Deborah?
Deborah is still typing. There was a comment from Tessa. I felt such excitement and anticipation. There was support, a duality of letting go, trusting and gathering courage to dive deeper.
Wow. Wow.
Beautiful.
So beautiful. Yeah.
And Deborah's comment, question, comment, I spend so much time in ordinary reality, taking of other, the I need the dark to come home to myself, and only then am I best connected. So I felt whole in the void.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like that self is gone. There is wholeness. I love that. It's beautifully well said. I think I'll read another poem, if you don't mind. Um, I love poetry because it elicits from the emotional field and allows us to actually feel beyond just what the words say. And another Rilke poem, translated by my dear friend Joanna Macy, who I adore, and her translations of Rilke are absolutely the best. And he says, listen, listen. Listen, quiet friend who has come so far. Feel how your breathing makes more space around you. Feel how your breathing makes more space around you. Let this darkness be a bell tower, and you the bell. As you ring, what batters you becomes your strength. Read that line again. As you ring, what batters you becomes your strength. Move back and forth into the change. What is it like? Such intensity of pain. Be the mystery at the crossroads of your senses. Be the mystery at the crossroads of your senses, the meaning discovered there. And if the world has ceased to hear you, say to the silent earth, I flow. To the rushing water, speak, I am. So I think this is an important, one of the things that I love about that poem is, you know, we're dealing with a lot, getting bombarded by, you know, COVID and economic issues and so many fears and what's going to happen next. And this idea of let the darkness be a bell tower and me the bell. And as you ring, what batters you becomes your strength. So when we really look, you know, I come from a lot of trauma in my background. You know, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I know that what battered me is why I do this work and what guides me in this work and keeps me, you know, looking to go deeper and deeper. And so when we're up against challenges, difficulties, feeling battered by life, that's showing us the edges of the prison of our own identity. And so if we can lean, you know, not too much, not overdoing it, but lean into those edges, lean into those really uncomfortable places and explore from the body, from the emotions, from the stories, you know, what's going on here? This battering, this challenge, this difficulty that I'm having. Because when we do that, we get that spaciousness. And then he says, you know, where is it? Where's the line? Feel how your breathing makes more space around you. So if I can breathe into the challenges that are coming up with me and be in the darkness, in not knowing at all, in that place, and I can just stay breathing, I find the edges of my identity expand, my inner interiority, my spaciousness, interior spaciousness gets larger. I'm more able to be with the issues that are challenging me, dividing me, separating me, othering me. And I can find a place to rest in that, a place of peace where I can rest in it. And so I love that poem, and I'd love if anyone wants to say something about dealing with the pain of being on the planet this time, and you know, either how it's challenging you or how you see you could lean into that softly, respectfully, compassionately, gently, lean into those places that are battering us right now. Anyone want to speak to that? Anything in the...
Hi, this is Dania again.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I find this to be an exquisite time. That poem was beautiful. Thank you.
Mm,
And I feel that that is describing how Spirit has been speaking to me in this time. That by the chaos and by the pressures, something else is arising up in me. And I notice that there are times when I would normally react in a certain way, maybe get irritated or upset, but this other energy is arising, and I'll find the way I speak seems more, well, I'm going to use the word spacious. It
yeah.
seems more spacious and compassionate. It's surprising me.
Mhm. Yeah.
It seems somewhat foreign, and yet I am 100% welcoming this feeling. And again, it's like kind of that alchemic feeling that I am changing uh, in spite of all, even myself. You know, my history is like yours, and I'm maybe for the first time grateful again for all that I've been through, because it's creating a different being.
Mm.
And yeah, thank you.
That's so beautiful. I just have to underline a couple of things that you said. I love that you use the word surprise. I don't know if you've ever listened to Brother David Stendelrast, who's one of my heroes. You can hear my interview with him on my radio show. Also, he's such a sweet man. He's like 95-year-old Austrian monk, and he's the world's leading expert by many people's saying on gratefulness. And he says that at the heart of gratefulness is surprise, is being surprised by life. And I just love that you said those two together in the same same breath, because they are, you know, that place where we, you know, don't wake up into, oh, I got to brush my teeth, or I got so much on my to-do list, but like to wake up surprised by life,
Yes,
like curious and like, whoa, you know, Einstein said either everything's a miracle or nothing is. I think everything's a miracle.
yes, yes.
And as we're going through this rite of passage, you know,
Hmm.
to actually scan for being surprised. What if we did that instead of
Yes.
scanning for, you know, how am I going to get hurt? What's going to happen? You know, who's going to get elected? All of these things that we're totally getting sucked into,
Mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm.
know.
That's beautiful. What was this fellow's name again? I'd love to look him
Brother
up.
David Stendelrast.
Wow.
And his organization, I think, is called gratefulness.org, actually.
Okay, thank you.
I
I
bet
added,
that Deborah would put it in the chat if we want, or
I
already
did.
has.
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Oh, that's my recording of him. Is that? Yeah, but he's amazing. Uh, Time I've spent with him has been some of the most precious time of my life. Really an amazing space of gratefulness. Yeah. Thank you. That was beautiful. There was something else about what you said that I wanted to riff off of a little bit. And I can't remember exactly because I got so swept away with gratefulness and surprise. But it was about how we're meeting the world. And for the most part, we react to the world. In other words, things get triggered in us, and then we react based on the information from the past, the subconscious mind, the tape that's always going. But when we have that spaciousness that you were talking about, we shift from reacting to responding. And that, I think, is one of the gifts if we can learn, because between the stimulus and the event, the event, that you get stimulated, you get triggered by something, there's this space, and then there's the reaction. But that space is a choice of whether I'm going to respond or react. And, mostly people are living in a reactionary mode. But how can I cultivate enough space so that I can respond from my highest self, from my soul's calling, for, that future that's calling me to be more connected, to be attentive to little things, to look at what's essential in my life and in my heart. I think those are the things that we really want to pay attention to and focus on. So, yeah, any other questions or comments or thoughts or experiences? I love hearing from you.
Deborah has one in the chat
Uh-huh.
since she's not able to use her speaker.
Thanks, Deborah.
What is the blessing in this obstacle in my path?
That is a great question to live into. Rilke has another thing that I love. He wrote, many of you probably read it, Letters to a Young Artist. And in that, he says, don't try to answer the, I'm going to paraphrase it terribly, not very poetically, but basically he says, don't try to answer the questions, the big questions in our life. Live into the questions. Let yourself be lived by the questions. And maybe someday the answer will arise, but don't shut it off. And that's what we do when we name something. We crystallize it, we catalyze it. Anytime we name, oh, he's like that, she's this way, it's like this, we murder the alternatives. So to really allow ourselves the space, that's what contemplation is. That's the second, in the Way of the Mystic courses, when I teach them, that's the second of the three things: meditation, contemplation, and prayer. And contemplation, to take something and actually just sit and be with a question. There's a school that I did some work with called the Ridwan School years ago. And they sit and ask the same question for like hours, over and over again. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? And you keep answering the question, and you get to, I don't have a clue of who I am. I have all these stories, but who am I? And questions like that, questions that elicit something bigger. So I love what you're saying. It's really gorgeous. Very beautiful. Yeah. Anything else? So, we have about 5 minutes left, and I want to say I'm honored and feel privileged to meet with you like this. I hope some of you will join some of the other programs or the coaching or whatever to continue this dialogue and deepen the dialogue. I actually am not planning on any more courses till next year, because we're full in the mystics courses right now. But I still have coaching available. I do the new moon calls. And if you're not on the newsletter list, if you sign up for it, you'll get 30 days of meditations, all different meditations that I've done that you can use every day. Just take one of the meditations to kind of, I'm not big on for my own sitting, on having a guided meditation for the whole thing, but to like kickstart a meditation, it's really nice to have a theme and somebody introducing that and calling you into your body, calling you into your breath, calling you into the moment. And so I really invite you to, go to welloflight.com and sign up for that if you aren't already, and get those meditations. So any last comments or questions that anyone would like to say? Okay, well,
Thank you. Thank
oh,
you.
you're welcome. Thank you. So I just want to take the tree of life here, if I can pick it up without burning myself. I love this little candle. So the tree of life, of course, is a very sacred symbol, and really reminds us to be rooted into the earth and to reach for the light, and that our trunk is the connection between heaven and earth, and that we are that conduit between the earthy humus and the growth and possibility of the dark inner earth and the light of the cosmos and the upper sun. So I just want to thank all the spirits and the directions and the web of life and the ancestors particularly for honoring us with this opportunity to be together. And I hope that you will join us in many more of these. And stay tuned. I will keep you posted, and I look forward to seeing you again. So with that, I'm going to call an end to the meeting and blow out the candle. But hopefully you're leaving here with just a little more light. And that's what the intention was. So much love to you all. And please stay in touch. I want to know about you. I want to know what you're up to. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you
Michael.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.